think there are a few misconceptions in the field which I want to put to rest about bodybuilding. Obviously, if there's only one exercise you're going to do for legs, say you're on a desert island and you're only allowed to do one exercise, it would be the squat. And obviously you'd have to do it with some kind of weight on your back. So when people are training to develop the legs for a functional activity, for rugby or whatever, the squats would be the main core exercise to develop the legs. From a bodybuilding perspective, it's not always the case. Yes to squat, and the squat does engage the quads muscle strongly as well as other muscles. But with you having to balance as well, you're engaging a lot of other muscles to try and feed the prime movers. So in order for the prime movers to maximise the lift, you've got to have good balance and using these other muscles which fatigue you as well. So I always say for bodybuilding purposes, you've got to try and focus again on the prime movers, the main muscle groups that you want to develop. That being the case, although the squat is the #1 exercise, we want to adapt it for bodybuilding purposes. So we tend to use a machine squat, like a pivot machine squat, where you can place the feet where you want to engage the right muscles, the muscles that you want to develop. So we're going to do that. Also, with leg extension, we're going to start with leg extension because it's a great movement, but we're also going to shorten the movement somewhat. The leg extension is used primarily for developing the teardrop muscle, which is this muscle here, just above the knee. Now this muscle mainly composes of two components. There's a long group of fibres called vastus longus, and there's another group of fibres that come around here called the oblique fibres, which help to stabilise the knee. We tend to develop these fibres when you do a locking out type movement, and we teach that for rehab for patients as well. Now the longitudinal fibres, you work strongly enough in all the other movements we're going to do with the leg press and the squat, so we don't really need to isolate them on the leg extensions. So we're going to do a shortened range of movement, and that movement is going to be the last 30 degrees of lockout. So we're going to demonstrate that now, and we're going to look on this inside group of fibres here. In order to do that, we turn the feet at a 10 to 2 position, and we're going to really concentrate on a good contraction at the top. So a really focused lockout, okay? You see a lot of people do this exercise. We'll show you the bad way of doing it, and then we'll show you the good way of doing it. So we'll start off with a loose form of leg extensions, the way that you see a lot of people do in gyms. So that's nice. It's a fast movement. I class it as a plyometric movement. So it's basically an elastic movement or a springy movement. There's no tension, no hold, no focus on the muscle you want to work. So we're now going to focus on the muscle we want to work. So feet at 10 to 2, like that. That's the start position. From that position we'll lock out fully. And this is engaging the inside part of the muscle just above the knee. And stretch out, straighten out, sorry, and hold it. Hold for 3 seconds at the top, good hold contraction. And it really focuses on the inside part of the knee there. So it develops a teardrop on the inside. So that's very isolating. So moving on to the squat now. So this is a squat with a difference. As you can see, it's a leverage machine. So you can see balance is taken out of the equation. So the balance, she doesn't have to balance a bar on her back. So she can focus on pushing with the leg muscles. And we can also place the feet wherever we want to try and engage different types of muscles. Okay. Now, the general rule is, with your feet right at the front of the foot plate, so if you slide your feet to the front of the foot plate, Charlotte, that's it. If she squatted now, she'd be engaging mainly the glutes as well as the quads, so it's probably 50-50. If she moves the feet right back, closer to the back of the foot plate, if she squatted there, so as she squats down, her knees come over her feet, she's mainly engaging the quads, and if she positions her feet close together, she'll mainly focus on the outside quads. So knowing that biomechanically, we can use that in our routine. Okay, so we're going to start off with the feet in the mid position like that, and probably about a foot apart. So this is like an overall squat. So this is like a barbell squat, but without the balance. Okay. And watch your depth as well. So as she goes down, deep breath in on the way down, past horizontal. Okay. So that means the top of the quads breaks parallel. Now in a powerlifting competition, that's usually the rule of thumb, that most associations will pass a squat if the crest of the quads breaks parallel. So you pause there and then drive out. Notice on the way down it's not dropping down fast, it's a controlled descent. Deep breath in on the way down, controlled descent, pause and drive out. So it's tension at the bottom where she pauses and then she drives out. Okay? So the next exercise where we're going to focus primarily on the quads is what we call the sissy squat. So you notice the back is right back against the pad now, shoulders right back. And as she squats down now, you'll notice her knees come right over her feet. But you'll also notice that she's on an angle, that the foot's on an angle. So she comes down to about 90 degrees flexion and then back out again. Okay? Notice it's a nice and controlled movement on the way down and a pause at the bottom. So we're aware as physiotherapists that the patella tendon and the patella are subject to a lot of stress in this position. So we do it in a nice controlled manner. So it's a slow descent and a pause at the bottom. And this is engaging more outside quads with the feet together. So this creates a heck of a lot of tension in the quads, and as a result, you're focusing on that area more with the squat. So this is called a sissy squat. With the feet at that angle, it tends to throw the weight forwards, so the quads engage more. So this next exercise is the leg press. Now a lot of people wonder, why would you do a leg press and a squat? Well, the squat is what we class in exercise terminology as a closed chain exercise. So basically the feet are fixed and the body's moving, and the leg press is an open chain exercise. That's where the body's fixed and the feet are moving. So in combining the two exercises, the quads and the leg muscles are working in a different format. It's called reversed origin insertion for the technical, but basically they contract in a different way. So it's good to combine a leg press with a squat for that reason. The other reason as well is now we can change the foot position on the foot plate. So as you saw before with the sissy squat, the feet were quite far back and the emphasis was on the quads. If we want to emphasise the glutes as well as the quads now, we can put the feet forward on the foot plate. So a lot of the feet further forward on the foot plate. The other thing you probably notice, which you can introduce, which is optional, but we've got some bands attached to these bars which are moving. So they're fixed to a fixed point behind John, and then as he pushes out, the bands stretch and offer more resistance on that outward part of the movement. And that allows him to get a strong contraction on the lockout. Again, working the long fibres of this muscle as well, really strongly on the lockout. So it's good if that's a weak part of the leg, depending on where the weakness is, you can use the bands to adapt the movement to offer resistance more strongly on that particular range. So we'll demonstrate it now. And I'll show you a few features. I've had this machine adapted as well. Yeah. So again, he's going to, on the slow part of the movement, the downward movements is slow. And you notice he's flexing more than 90 degrees as well. It's got a really good back support on this machine, so the pelvis doesn't rotate off, you don't stress the lower back. And he's getting just more than 90 degrees flexion, and there's still tension. So this isn't hitting the stoppers at the bottom, there's still tension at the bottom. He pauses at the bottom, so his muscles have to contract maximally to drive the weight out again. So there's no use of momentum, no bouncing off the stoppers at the bottom. Pause, kill momentum, create the tension and drive out. So that's how you do a leg press properly. Maybe you can show John how not to do it. So this is how not to do the leg press. You see a lot of people do it. So it's a fast movement, and he's bouncing off the stoppers there, or you see a lot of people doing a really short range movement, so you just do a short range movement like that. Okay, that's not offering a lot of tension. People can use a lot of weight with it, but it's not offering maximum tension throughout the full range of movements. If you remember before, right at the beginning, I was mentioning about how muscle fibres don't attach to the full length of the muscle. They attach part way as well, so you need to engage the muscle through the full length of contraction in order to maximise its potential for growth and strength. So if you're just working away and you're only working on that particular range with a lot of weight, fast and with a fast movement, you're not engaging the muscle for long enough under sustained tension. One of the features which I also mentioned before was the way I've adapted this machine is to try and fix the shoulders down. So we have this pad which has been adapted to this machine. One of the things that happens is with a lot of leg press machines is as the weight gets heavier, it tends to drive the body out of position and you're having to hold on. So you're holding on too strongly with your shoulders, and very often, I mean, I actually got a shoulder injury through holding on a leg press too tightly as I was driving out a massive weight, and it actually tore a tendon in my shoulder. So a lot of these leg press machines, I think, are badly designed by having to make people hold on. And so we have this shoulder pad which fixes you in position, so the body's not going anywhere, it's fixed in position. You can concentrate fully on the legs and not have to hold on. This is an alternative exercise to the other exercise you've seen, the leg press. So you can either do one or the other. This is another hammer strength machine, which is an incline machine as well. Now this again, you can adjust the backrest. I prefer it actually with it on a lower angle, so not too steep an angle. Okay, so you can effectively get a better range of movement then. So, and Charlotte's got a slightly forward position with her feet, so it's going to engage the glutes as well as the quads. So the feet are further forward. So as she comes down, she's going to break 90 degrees, coming down past 90 degrees, pause at the bottom, and you can see the pelvis isn't rolling off the pad. Sometimes, if you're trying to get a really full range, the pelvis can roll off and put stress on the lower back, but it's not doing that. And that's because the pad's far enough back. So she's got a good enough range of movement there, going back, pause at the bottom and driving out. And that's a good leg press movement. So moving on to hamstrings now. So with hamstrings, we tend to pick two exercises. One where we focus on the outer range part of the movement. So in other words, most of the tension's on the outer part of the range, which is from that position to about 90 degrees. And then we can focus on a real maximal contraction for the inner range. It's very difficult to find one machine that does all the range adequately. You've got a really good strength curve on this leg curl machine, and it would, you know, if you're going to pick one exercise, I would say this is probably the best one overall, because it works the outer range and the inner range, and it's got a good strength curve. So the tension occurs just at the right moment throughout the muscle. So, but we're going to start off with this one, and then we're going to show another movement which focuses on the inner range. So now this leg curl movement is what we call an open chain. So basically the body's fixed and the feet are moving. We're also going to show one exercise where the feet are fixed and the body's moving. That's what we call a closed chain hamstrings. Very, very rare to see that in gyms, but we'll show you an alternative, and that's another way of working the hamstrings. But basically we're going to work one from 0 to 90 degrees, which is this exercise, and then we're going to show you another one working the inner range. So John will demonstrate this one. This is a hammer strength machine, and he's getting just past 90 degrees there, and then a controlled descent, keeping tension on, so he doesn't bottom out completely, keeps the tension all the way, good hold at the top and all. So that's working that outer range from 0 to 90 degrees maximally. Nice and controlled. So this is the second exercise that would go well with the first one, and this is going to work the inner range now. Now this is a hammer strength leg curl machine. It's a kneeling one. I prefer these to the sitting ones. But if you've only got a sitting one in the gym, then use that. I just don't like actually sitting on the actual muscle that you're trying to work. I do prefer this one, but this will be similar to a sitting one. So we're going to do the inner range of movement now. So we're going to squeeze in past 90 degrees, get a good contraction at the top,